Hi everyone. We are live streaming today with a special guest, Suman. Someone will do the introduction very soon. But let me tell you quickly who I am, what I do, and what is this about. So this podcast is the season 2, episode 1. So Suman, thank you for that, for joining me on the season 2, on the first episode of the season. It's about moving women forward. So we have created a platform which is called Moving Women Forward, is to help women move from stuck to empowered with expert-led masterclasses, support, and all sorts of networking opportunities. Today we have Suman. Suman, you are an award-winning sales and messaging consultant. You help heart-led businesses approach their way, the business their way, with sales not feeling icky and not feeling pushy. So tell us more about who you are, what you do, what inspires you, and then I will crack on with some questions.
Thank you so much, Jona. No, it's a pleasure to be here today. What a way to start the week. Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you all. So just to do a quick introduction, Jona did a pretty good job there, but I'll just expand. As of today, I can add one more thing to that list. So I am a sales and messaging mentor, an award-winning with sales and messaging mentor. I guess what kind of makes me unique is that I have 30 years of sales experience. So literally from rolling out of university, I rolled straight into my first role in sales. And then I launched my own business 3.5 years ago. And I have worked in the small business space over the last 3.5 years. And I guess my angle, which you touched on there, is I'm very much about showing people that we can generate consistent income without sleazy tactics, without feeling uncomfortable about sales. And as I just mentioned earlier today, I have something new that added to my list today, which is I've written a book on this topic. And it's really about something that I feel very passionate about, which is more heart, less hustle. Like, we deserve to be able to make money, but we don't have to do it in an uncomfortable way.
Well, congratulations on your book, Confident. Why is that?
Well, I think it's a really interesting topic, and it's funny. It's I think it's to do with our blueprint, depending on your age group. So let's roughly imagine that, in fact, I'm going to ask you, Jona, that roughly your audience, would you say they were above a particular age group before I go making any assumptions?
Above 30, definitely.
Yes, okay, absolutely. Amazing. So I would say probably more for the 40 plus, but 30 you'll still be experiencing it today, which is, what are your memories of sales? Even now, the door-to-door charity people who are turning up at your door, or door-to-door salesmen when we were growing up who were selling you double glazing. The problem is that the blueprint for many people with sales is that it is pushy, that it is uncomfortable, that it was not asked for. So a lot of people saw that growing up, kind of when I was growing up. Yes, it was the double glazing, but it was also just so much was sold door to door. I remember people turning up at our doors with suitcases of clothing and materials. I remember even Encyclopedia Britannica, which was a book that a lot of us, like a series of books that a lot of us growing up would have probably had in our homes. So I think where this comes from is ultimately from what we saw growing up. So I think that's the first thing, is what is the stories? What did you see? What are your memories of sales? I think the second thing that has not helped is if you type sales into any social media search bar that is video predominant, so probably really talking about Instagram and TikTok, and you look at what has the biggest hits. I mean, millions and millions of followers for people who are ultimately shouting in the screen, talking to you about very heavy tactics. They're either sweating or they're pacing up and down, or if they're women, even with the women as well, it can be very in your face, it can be very direct. So the problem is, then this becomes the blueprint. This is what people think sales is, and then it just makes them want to step further and further away. So that's where I kind of believe the foundation comes from.
I had a question about negotiation in sales, but we'll get back to that.
Okay, yeah, I'm here for you.
Yeah. I was part of one of the negotiation club's memberships, and I really enjoyed that.
Okay,
I learned so much about sales just from that club. So imagine if I knew the tactics before, or if that is an approach that we all must have at a certain point in business. I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah,
so we'll get back to that.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, actually, I think this is the other challenge. It's the language. So like tactics, it makes people think like it's a trick. And what like just one kind of phrase on this is that actually, what if instead, and I've got a feeling this is a question, but what if instead of you thinking of it as sales, you actually thought of it as matchmaking, or you actually thought of it as service? But we can go into that in further detail in a second. But it's all about reframing. What's your relationship with sales, and how could you see it differently?
And so we are very much comfortable by holding ourselves back when it comes to sales. We don't want the weight on our shoulders, so we would rather not do the sale or talk about sales or promote in a salesy way. How can I'm gonna stick to women in this case? How can women, because this is about moving women forward, so that's the whole point of helping them with tips and advice. How can we change this mindset? So, if you don't want to leave it to women, you're more welcome. But
well, I mean, this is applicable to everyone, but you just said the perfect word there at the end, mindset. So this is about reframing.
How would we help women?
Yeah.
So face the sales.
Yeah.
Not hold us back from the sales and not even think of sales. So
the first thing that I would say to you is the reason sales can feel so difficult and the reason it can be so triggering is you think that you are going to be accepted or rejected. So one of the very first things that I'm going to say is work on realizing it is not you that is for sale. So you cannot be rejected. What is for sale is the offer that is a match to what it is that they need. So that's the first reframe. And it is the biggest piece of work that you need to do. And particularly when we're running our own businesses, we're putting ourselves up for this rejection, so to speak, every single day. So number one is the reframe around how we're thinking about ourselves and separating that for what is for sale. The second thing that I would say is for the vast majority of people, they've come from corporate. There was something else they did before. They have this huge passion. They have decided they want to launch their own business, or perhaps at this stage, it's still something that's on the side, but you really hope one day this is going to be your full-time role. So ask yourself, what feels like the bigger risk? Not being able to fulfill your dream of reaching more of the people whose lives you can change, or reaching more of the people who you know you can impact their lives with this product or this service that is the perfect fit for them. Does that feel like the biggest hardship, or the thought of selling? So I guess what you have to consider is, how much do you believe that people need what is for sale? How much can you change their lives with what you have? I realize not everybody has a life-changing product, but even if it is an incredible quality olive oil that is going to be perfect for you and your family, or whether it is a coaching service, or whether you are a nanny helping a child who is not sleeping properly, just think about how important is it to reach that person whose lives you can change. So we're talking about mindset there. Once you do that, it then becomes, honestly, sales conversations is a matchmaking service. It is, do I have something that is going to help you? But the only way I can know if it will help you is I have to ask you questions. Get really curious. Growing up, in fact, actually, Jona, this really taps into what you said. Growing up, particularly for girls, don't talk too much. You're bossy if you speak too much. So there was this whole kind of like, we have to hold back. It's not going to surprise you, but my school reports almost always spoke about the fact that I talked too much. So I've always talked a lot. But the thing is, my talking is because I'm a really curious person. So by being curious, I can find out more about what you need. Then I get to show you if it's a match. So when you're having sales conversations, the majority of the speaking should be from the other person. This is not your opportunity to sell you. This is your opportunity to find out more about what they need. That one. Yeah.
The AI is not there yet.
Yeah, exactly. Not yet.
We're not touching on that today, but yeah, I understand that we always think that it's too pushy, right? So I want to go back to the too pushy bit. So what's about this too pushy thing, right? We have to sell. So if we are supporting, if we are helping businesses out there to move forward, so we are offering something, right? So there is a piece of something that is going to help them, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why does it feel pushy? What can we do that to change that perspective?
It feels pushy because you are uncomfortable with sales. You are uncomfortable with sales because of the stories that you may have seen, what you saw growing up, perhaps what you're seeing on social media. But I think the thing to remember is, what if you were able to relax into your conversations? So that's why it does make sense to have a more structured process for the questions you ask on a sales call. But think of it as this way. Whenever I'm on a sales call, my end objective is not to make money. My end objective is to identify. So what I always say is, at the end of this call, I promise you that you will have greater clarity on what to do next. And then the question that I want to find out is, if the answers they've shared with me show that there is a match, then the magic question to ask is, and are you looking, or if they've booked the call already, now you booked this call because you said you're looking for support to get there. How urgent does this feel right now? Does this feel like this would be a match? Like, price doesn't even need to be spoken about until the end. We just have to come from a place of, is this genuinely a match? Because if it's not, then you're absolutely right. This is not a conversation that should result in a sale. So I hope that's helpful. Like, the reframe there is around, we have to make money. I get that. Like, we need to make money for our business to survive. But instead, think about, how can you make life easier for yourself by making it very clear who you help and how you help them, instead of constantly talking about yourself. How is it a match for who you help? So yeah, I hope that helps.
It helps, obviously. Yes, absolutely. It's very to the point. And I think, the audience or whoever is going to watch the video will take that on board. And it's a test. I think people must test this technique.
That is a really great sentence that you've just said there, which is, yeah, you have to experiment. And every time, this is what I'm going to say to you, every time you get a rejection, this is generally to people, every time you get a rejection, remember, it's not you that's being rejected, but every time you get a no, or every time somebody doesn't move forward, what I want you to consider here is, great, what did I learn from that? What objection did I hear? How can I handle that in my content next time? What practice did I get? Watch back your recordings, because you are not alone in feeling uncomfortable. So that shift will really help you with that. But yeah, I love that, Jona. Like, of course you have to test what is giving you the result that you need. Where are those people? If you're constantly finding the ones that are coming from one platform always end up being a time waster, but then the ones you meet at a networking event are always a good match, well, then you know the answer. You know where you need to spend more time. Go to Jona's networking events.
Well, by the way, the next one is coming up on the 1st of May.
I know, I saw that. I don't think I'm here for that, but I will come to the one after that.
If you're not, someone in the audience might want
to.
Yes,
they might be. They're really good. They're really good. I've made incredible quality contacts for my business through these networking events. Jona, you bring a great crowd together. So yeah, definitely share that.
Thank you. This is live stream though.
I know.
Just so you're reminded, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that, Suman. So usually the format is that I ask 3 questions. We're on question 3. But
okay.
I don't think I'm finished yet. So bear with me, everybody. And Suman, by the way, thank you so much for sharing your insights halfway through the call. So I've noted down another question. It's, what's one way we can start selling with confidence? I don't want to hear just one, but if you can share more than one, that would be most appreciated. Thank you.
So one of the first things that I would suggest, it doesn't matter where you are in your business, and we're live stream, so I realize this won't be people watching this on replay, but anyone who's joining us, one of the first things that you need to do is you've got to revisit the foundation. So if you're new in business, this is totally relevant for you, but even if you're not new, regularly revisit the foundations. What do I mean by that? Which is, how do you know that there is a viable market of people who want to buy and are willing to invest in what you have for sale? Because this is the thing here. It needs to be more than a nice to have. It needs to be something that they want, desire, and need. So therefore, one of the best things you can do to get yourself comfortable in sales is speak to your target audience, speak to people who would be potentially your client, and ask them, what is it that matters to them? What do they consider? How much of a priority is this investment for them? What are the key factors that they look for? So regularly speak to your audience. It's like take a sample size, see what they're saying, because the other thing here is you will evolve. Like who you are right for now may not be a match for where you are in your business in 6 months' time. Let's say you're a personal trainer who helps people get into the gym for the first time. Actually, in 6 months' time, they need the next phase of what's going to be important to them. So really think about your product or your service and ask yourself, when did I last get proof around what is needed? So that's kind of like one thing that I would share, which is regularly speak to your audience. The second thing to help you get really comfortable with selling is really to think of your platforms where you speak to people. So generally, I'm imagining online, that's going to be your website. It might be your blogs, and it might be your social media posts. Now, I know a lot of people don't love creating social media posts, but with 1 billion people approximately per platform, it would be a real shame not to tap into the size of the audience that you have there. So when it comes to your content, instead of just selling, this is the service, like I have 6 sessions or here is 1 bottle of product that is for sale. What's the story here? Remember, we're always selling the transformation. So how will people feel at the end of this? Not the transportation. In other words, I'm not selling the 6 sessions or the pen. I'm selling what the pen will allow me to do, and I'm selling how the sessions will transform my life. So storytelling is really important within transformation. So we've spoken there about researching your audience regularly. Second thing we've spoken about there was really getting very clear on what the end goal gets to look like for them. And the third thing that I kind of just like fused in there was more storytelling. Show people how they go from point A to point B and use language that they're using, which you would have done in your surveys and research with them. So we've got 3 points there, which is storytelling, research, and also speaking about the transformation in your content.
All 3 valid steps, very useful.
Good.
Again, whoever is going to watch the replay, if they are watching the replay, or if they're watching the live in this case, just so you know, these are not only steps to take, but you must also experiment. So we talk about experimenting, testing.
We love that. Yeah.
Before in the conversation with Suman. So that's the way to go. One other question, please, Suman. Right. So I'm aware you are in the middle of something very exciting.
I am.
I want to link that thing. If you want to mention that to the audience, I want to link what's the purpose and what can help the audience with.
Thank you. It's very generous of you to let me talk about what's happening today, which actually was a coincidence. You know, even when we booked this session in, actually at that time, I didn't know when launch date was. So for those of you that didn't pick up me talking about it earlier, I do have a book that has gone on sale today, my very first book. But I think what's really important here, I don't want this to feel like it's a promotion for my book. I think what's important here is, why did I feel like I needed to write a book on sales? Like, did I not have enough on my plate? Did I not have enough to do? It's been 18 months of commitment. I know there are people who get books out like this. I'm not that person. But I think what I realized was I didn't plan to write a book, Jona, but the most common thing that I have heard since I have launched my business is, all sales makes me really uncomfortable. All sales is icky, or all sales feels really sleazy. And I would hear this so much that I realized that actually there were three things that I needed to do. One, I have so much experience. It isn't something I've just picked up. It is all I have done for my entire adult career, which is many years. So that was the first thing, which is, well, I have all of this knowledge. The second thing is, I built my career by not being that person. You know, I built it by being about relationship building. I built it and I tell you what, relationship building, particularly like the corporate career I had, where things would go vastly wrong in the world of advertising, things would be put in the wrong place, or it might be an advert that's been placed next to a competitor or next to an article which is not flattering to the advert. There were so many awkward and difficult conversations I had to have throughout my career that I realized how important relationship building was. So I knew that I could show people that actually we can be ethical, We can lead from heart. We can lead from a place of service. And then the third thing that I wanted to do was really simplify it, because people are like, right, okay, it's like I need to sit down, I need to learn about sales. Everybody sells every single minute of every single day. If you've ever been able to negotiate your child from upstairs to downstairs into the outfit you need to get them in and out of the house in a reasonably decent time, you are amazing at sales. You're a fantastic negotiator. If you have ever spoken to somebody while buying a car and felt incredibly excited by what was available, but realized it wasn't in your budget and managed to have a conversation with them, and then suddenly you can afford it, you're great at sales and negotiating. So the third thing that I wanted to do within the book was remind people the issue is just your relationship potentially with the word. Actually, sales itself is what keeps the world going round. And when done beautifully, it's actually just about the perfect partnership between somebody who needs something and someone who has what they need available. So it just feels like it's a really good match. So yeah, that was kind of where it came from. I was ready to give up many times, Jona. I absolutely would have given up, but was working with a coach. And I think that is another reminder, is that when you have someone who keeps you accountable and supportive and is supportive of you, they keep you on track. And yeah, we've got to a place where it's live. I have it. I've sold copies and I'm celebrating it. So yeah, I think it's not just a celebration of me. It's a celebration of knowing that as business owners, this is something that we don't have to have a difficult relationship with. We can feel more positive about making more money in our business. So thank you for inviting me to speak about it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Suman. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for telling us about the book, by the way, because, there are people in the audience who are really interested in this sort of tools. It's a tool after all. So people will learn from it and will make use of the tactics and tips and other tricks that are shared in the book. Suman, one last question. Would you rather, so this is kind of, I don't want to delve too much into that, but it's like, would you think that sales is linked with the money, or money linked with the sales mindset, either way, or there's no correlation at all?
No, there's a definite correlation. And actually, even that's a really important point that you make, which is that even if you are great at sales, it doesn't mean that the story ends there, unfortunately, because we need to become good with cash in our business. Like, we need to have cash in our business in order for our business to survive. So we need to understand about costs, profitability. And obviously that's why, that's why you will have people in your business who can support you with that later down the line. But certainly when you start out, if I was going to go back to year one, and if there was, would I change anything? No, maybe I could have spent a little bit less. I mean, I literally spent like it was Christmas. But the only thing I would say is I wish I had learned about cash flow much easier. So it's related to money in that sense. But then the second part is money mindset work. And actually, even me, I did, so I've worked with a cash flow coach, interestingly enough, but I've also worked with a money mindset coach, because what I realized was that my relationship with money is I was very good at receiving it. I mean, I loved receiving it. I wasn't very good at holding it. So in a way, I'm the perfect person to teach sales, because I absolutely love spending money. But that's kind of been part of my relationship, is feeling comfortable enough to be able to hold cash, use cash to make more cash, but really working on my relationship with sales and what it made me feel. So Jona, that's actually a really relevant and appropriate question. And it's a reminder, unfortunately, for most of us, we're really quite multi-layered. Or maybe it's a good thing. Nobody wants to be one-dimensional, but we're multi-layered. It can be quite complex. What's holding you back? Or what could you do that would help you push forward? And sometimes it can be your money mindset stories, Jona. Yeah, for sure.
Sadly, it can be, as you know. But Suman, I hadn't planned to ask you so many questions. I apologize.
I appreciate it. No, I appreciate it.
What were you up to? But the last of the last, please. Do you think the money relation, or the sales and money relation with each other in this case, is also a cultural thing? Like different cultures have different?
Well, I mean, that's actually a very interesting question, because in my very last corporate role that I worked for a very, very famous luxury brand. I suppose if you go on LinkedIn, you'd probably find out who it is. But that luxury brand, my role was one of the senior managers in a department where what we did was we looked after the top spending clients in the store. So I had a team that looked after the top spending clients, and our client base was very international. And it was very interesting to see the different relationships, you know, for example, and I say this like, not, you know, not in a stereotypical way, but actually culturally, like Indian, Middle Eastern, actually they're insulted if you don't offer a discount. They're insulted if you don't show them how this is the best price for them. But then there might be other cultures where they might consider that a discount is somehow insinuating that somebody can't afford something. And so they're like, well, you know, why are you offering me a discount? But you actually make a really good point there about discounts and pricing. And I'm mindful of time, and I know we can't go into this, but actually, when I started out, one of the things I was really mindful is, how am I going to deal with people asking for a discount? I can honestly count, not even on one hand, like I have has 2 people maybe in my entire time asked me for a discount. Like, when it comes to your business and when it comes to your pricing, think about the energy that you're putting out there. Are you making it very clear the level at which you're operating and that you are running a business? Remember, when somebody is paying you, this is paying you to be able to run a business, pay your overheads, pay your costs. They're not just paying you for the 60 minutes or for the product that you've given them. It's for your years of experience behind you, for your expertise. It's for the platforms that you use. It's the tools. It's your team. So I think that probably nicely ties into like that whole conversation, which is, remember that money is not just an exchange for a product or a service. It's actually in exchange for the whole transformation of what they receive at the end. So I think that's a perfect way to tie up our conversation.
We're gonna go into that in another podcast session, I'm afraid, Suman, because time's up. I don't think I've received any questions so far, but maybe, yes, there are a few people commenting here, which is great.
Thank you.
Yeah. But there is no question as such for
No
you
problem.
to answer,
Well, I think
or any action on that.
we've covered a fair amount in half an hour, I think.
Yeah, quite a few unexpected.
We have.
Yes, thank you so much, and congratulations on your book launch again.
Thank you, Jona,
We'll
for your
talk
support.
soon, and I'll see you soon.
I'll see you very soon. Take care,
very
everyone.
soon, actually. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.